Hi there, it's Kevin with Gunroll Games. I think it's time for another rant, even though Buttons is begging me not to rant. He's just saying, let's go somewhere fun. Let's forget about the world. Let's just go run and relax and chase birds and balls and have a good old time. But nope, I think it's time for a good old rant. I'm gonna sit down for this one and have a little heart-to-heart with everyone. So I read everyone's comments on my last video talking about how I don't like the way that Magic has gone, the direction that Magic's gone. And I was actually surprised that most of the comments kind of shared the same sentiments that I did. That it's not just me being angry about how the world's changing without me. I don't want to be that boomer that's yelling at kids on my lawn and thinking, okay, the world's changed without me, and where am I now? Whereas the world I once loved so much, how is it gone so far downhill? So anyway, this video is going to be a little bit controversial. I need to give some context to this before I proceed. So many of you might still remember me from the Rogue Deck Builder days. I kind of mentioned it in my last video. I know a lot of people are newer subscribers and they've known me from the Gone Rogue Games, where I'm a business owner, where I own a store, and I talk most about the store. Well, I used to have a channel called Rogue Deck Builder. I mainly did brews for Magic the Gathering. How it started was I'll give you a little bit of a backup story with Magic. I played as a kid. I played since 5th grade. I remember my best friend brought home some Magic cards, convinced me to play. We had a little tiny store here in Richfield, Utah that sold sports cards, and they happened to sell some Magic cards. And then the Kmart would sell Magic cards too. So that was we'd play at the lunch at school, and we'd play after school. And that was kind of my exposure to Magic. And then Magic has come and gone in my life. I played a little bit in college when I was bored the first time I went to college. And it really didn't become a big part of my life until later on in life when I randomly came back into a game store. I've told this story before, but I was dating a girl with a condition called borderline personality disorder. And it's just awful. So one of the things with BPD is they have an uncanny way of like pushing you away from your friends and family. And so I was with her for 4 years, and by the time the relationship ended, like I really didn't have any friends that wanted to tolerate me and family. And so I was quite alone at the time. And I remember that I was also very unhealthy. I was super skinny. And the one thing that I could work on is I thought, okay, well, I got nothing going for me in my life. At least I can get in shape. And so I really got addicted to the gym, and I started going to the gym a lot. And one day coming home from the gym, I saw a game store, and like, wow, I remember Magic. I'm gonna go in there and flex at some nerds. And so I went in, and it was kind of this little mom and pop store. It was called Epic Puzzles and Games. It was before it was big. So I really like the story of Epic Puzzles and Games because it started as a tiny store, and they kept moving to bigger stores until they became the biggest store in Salt Lake City. And eventually sold it for a lot of money and were able to retire off of selling their store. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So I went in there just thinking that I'd just have fun flexing some nerds and then just go on with my life. And they were so awesome. Everyone in there was so kind. And I remembered my love for Magic, and we sat down and we played. We all could have something in common. I'm still friends with a lot of these people that I met on that first day that I walked into Epic Puzzles and Games. And so after that, Magic became a big part of my life. I'd make sure to hit all of the FNMs, and like I said, I got more involved with it. It was something that would distract me. And I remember joining my first Grand Prix, and I sat down. And I'll give you the TLDR because I've told this story a million times. But I sat down, I actually was playing a pro in the Grand Prix. And I had this kind of janky deck that I had been working on that tried to cheat out a Hero Blade hold with a card that's called Chancellor of the Tangle. So the whole idea with the deck was to cheat out 2 mana dorks on turn number 1 and cast a 4-drop on turn number 2. And hopefully that would be enough to overwhelm the game. And so I ended up doing it twice in a row. And it was a meta choice too, because there was a particular deck that all the pros were on and did really well against that deck. And so this pro was playing that deck, and I beat him 2-0 with my Chancellor of the Tangle on turn number 1. And he was so upset, and he slammed in his chair and said, "Have fun wasting your money and my money with your rogue deck." And that phrase just stuck with me. And I went home and I started a YouTube channel called The Rogue Deck Builder. And I thought it was pretty fun. I didn't think anyone would ever like my channel, but I wanted to showcase that you could be successful being creative in Magic the Gathering. And so the Magic the Gathering became not only my social itch, but it became my creative itch. And I started really enjoying making videos to the point that I got some attention and got sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. and Gathering Magic. And I made a pro tour, and when I was at the pro tour, Wizard of the Coast approached me about possibly making a documentary and some content, and everything was going really well with the channel. And I just was in love with Magic the Gathering, and it was just such a godsend from where I came from previously from my life, and kind of the hardships and stuff that happened in my life. So fast forward a little bit, where I start to get more comfortable on my channel. And I'm an outspoken person, as you can see. I like to talk about issues when they come up, and I like to call out nonsense when there's nonsense to call out. And so we started to see a change happen in the Magic the Gathering kind of culture and community, and Wizards of the Coast especially. And this all had to coincide with Gamergate that was going on at the time. So if you don't remember, a lot of you might be too young for Gamergate, but Gamergate was people can argue exactly what the cause was, whether it was be gatekeeping by, fat white men trying to keep, minorities and women out of their hobby, which is what one side of this story will tell you. And on the other side of the story is people just wanted their games to be, have some, justice, have some credibility, to be able to stay as pure as they can and not be changed by these outside forces that, didn't really care for the game. And the whole problem was that nerd culture is becoming mainstream. And when things become mainstream, everyone wants to get in on them. And a lot of times people that don't respect the genre for what it is, they don't care. They're going to come in and they're going to partake, and oftentimes they're not going to like to partake your particular way, so they're going to want to change it. And that was the whole sort of argument with Gamergate. Was one was trying to keep the purity of the games, and I mean, it all started over a review of a game, and then it just bled into all these other cultural problems that were going on at the time. I mean, the entire United States was under this massive culture war at the time. And so we knew it was going to bleed into Magic the Gathering, and it did. And so there started to be a lot of nonsense that happened in Magic the Gathering. One that got me in a lot of trouble was there was an article that became very controversial, and there was a pro that actually did a response article to the article, trying to chill people out. Actually, it was Jim Davis, actually. And Jim Davis wrote a rebuttal article to this article that was basically trying to train all the men how they can be more accommodating and quit being so gross so that women would play Magic the Gathering. That was the gist of it. I mean, these articles were a dime a dozen. You could pick any male-dominated hobby at the time, and there would be this article written by a woman, telling men how to behave. And they did become so tiresome at the time. So Jim Davis wrote this article as a rebuttal saying, okay, our community is not as disgusting, as vile as you said, maybe take it back a notch, because everyone's not like this. And that's not been his experience. Well, he got eviscerated to the point that Star City Games had to take the article down. So I did a video responding to that video, being like, dude, can we all chill out? Jim Davis said nothing wrong. He just gave his opinion, and I actually share his observations. Yes, there were things that were wrong in the gaming. Gaming communities have been awkward. They've been a little backwards socially. And that's just something that comes with time. It takes time to change that, and you just can't come in and force it. And the worst way to do that is to tell people they're bad people, and try to force this change and try to bully and belittle people into changing behavior. And so that was kind of the first time where I entered the controversy into Magic the Gathering, and started to get canceled by there. I started to get like a target on my head. And then the culture went absolutely insane in about 2017, 2018 time period. And I couldn't keep my neck out of the chopping block, out of the controversy, to the point that I started getting labeled with labels that I think were very mischaracteristic of me, and to the point too that I lost my sponsorships, and I was just tired. I was tired of the nonsense in the community. I was tired of being misrepresented. I was tired of the drama. I was just tired of Magic players in general, and I was tired of how the culture had shifted away from the focus on the game to all of this political nonsense that had very little to do with the game, if anything. It just became so much about the culture of playing the game and how we could be such more of a welcoming community if we weren't just all just disgusting, vile people. So anyway, I started my Patreon, started my store, and I just said, to hell with this, I'm going to go do my own thing. But at that time period, this is where this video is kind of going. I kind of want to call out some characters. So one of the reasons I made this video is a video popped up on my feed by a very, very popular YouTuber that also is sharing the same sentiments that I am, that Magic is now changed into this bastardized version of Magic, where not only is Universes Beyond come in and like, now I have to play SpongeBob and Captain America and blah, blah, blah. And now it's going to be in standard. So it's not about, well, it's just a skin. It doesn't really affect anything. Nope. These are going to be full sets that are going to be legal in all formats. And so whether we like it or not, we're going to have to play against them. We're going to have to engage in the if you want to play any sort of competitive format, then you're going to have to play this Fortnite version of Magic. So yes, obviously people that have been around with Magic, like I said, for a long time, that have been a little bit immersed in this storyline. I've never said that Magic the Gathering has had the best storyline, but it did have its own world, it did have its own characters, and it did have its own feel. Now it's completely being forced to change on people. And what I kind of want to call out is like, the chickens have come home to roost. And I want people to take some accountability for their role that they played in this, either A, not speaking out, or B, being completely complicit with when we were warning that this was coming, that, you know, people told us we were crazy or we were misogynistic or we were, you know, just terrible bad people, that, you know, haters that wanted to keep people out of our hobby and, you know, be exclusionary, when we were like, no, we actually don't like the changes that are happening in this. And so it all kind of started with what I like to call the Wizards of the Coast nepotism, and not only nepotism, but the entire company got completely kind of infected by Seattle culture. And that was the biggest problem with Wizards of the Coast. Is I even made a video clear back in the day talking about how Wizards of the Coast was more, they wanted to become like a hip company. They wanted to be this brand that was like ultra, I don't even want to say progressive because that's not the right word. They wanted to be like ultra hip and appeal to these people that didn't play their game. So the vast demographic of people that played Magic the Gathering were in the gaming and fantasy genre. And you know, they came from all walks of life, but it was still like a lot of this nerd culture. And it felt like Wizards of the Coast wanted to go to their little Bobo tea parties with their other Seattle elites, their other politically connected people, and talk about how wonderful and how, you know, how progressive their company is and all that, what they're doing X, Y, and Z to, you know, fight this culture war. And that's what Wizards of the Coast changed their focus. They were more focused on that crap than they were by actually producing a good game. And it started to leak into Magic the Gathering. The first one that I remember was there was an author, Allison Lurs, I think her name was. She's blocked me on Twitter. I've never engaged with her in my entire life. And she started producing these articles and started making these characters like Chandra, like they really bad. And they were it was just cringe. Like the articles were just so bad. And they weren't canonically sound. And people started complaining, like the people that like the lore and they like the feel of Magic the Gathering. They started complaining, be like, why are you taking these characters? What are you doing with this stuff? And then Wizards of the Coast reaction was that they started banning people. They threatened to not give Reddit spoilers if they would allow these sort of criticisms on Reddit. And it got to the point too that they stopped attributing authors to the posts on their website out of this sense of that this person was being bullied. And it's the same kind of thing with this whole commander nonsense right now. Oh, death threats, oh, bullying. You know, they always pull that card. Instead of actually like saying, okay, something is wrong here. We got to address that there is some dissatisfaction. Nope, it turns into there's horrible people out there that are bullying and death threats and blah, 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 rather than any taking any sort of accountability. So, like I said, this is nothing new. I don't think that, like, you know, a lot of these people like are complaining now of like, where'd this happen? Why did this happen? Corporate greed. Oh, this is exactly what it is. Obviously, corporate greed is the main issue. I mean, people know that there is just so much money in mashups and like, you know, team ups and crossovers. I mean, look at all these videos where they you know, morph to universes together and then it ends up having, I mean, this is nothing new. This has been, these crossovers happen in comic books for years and years and years and years and years. And that's even like why Fortnite was so popular to a point, is it was just like a shooter you could run any character you wanted. So, but it didn't last because it didn't have any any of its own, you know, nothing could identify as its own thing. I mean, when you're banking off everything else, then you can just get knocked off for anything else that just banks on those premises. But anyway, kind of getting sidetracked here with that thought. So my whole point is that this didn't come out of nowhere. This has been little by little. I complained on some of my videos about the cutesy stuff that they started putting in, where, you know, the Magic when it started was kind of edgy as far as like fantasy is concerned. Like, it was dark. A lot of the stuff with Magic was planes that were being completely destroyed. It showed misery, it showed suffering, and it showed complex villains and heroes. And then it became so, we called it the Justice League, and the Avengerification of Magic, where there was clear black and white, good versus evil, and it became so tropey and tiresome. And people, again, started calling out of this and saying, hey, can we hire some good authors? Can we kind of refocus and get back to where Magic is you know, the storyline and the building of characters and the build up towards, like, War of the Spark, I would say, was like the last bit of them trying to even care about like a cohesive Magic the Gathering storyline. I mean, I think the storyline was gone way before then because of some, you know, terrible decisions, and like I said, they really got tropey and cringy and stuff with their things, and a lot of that is still because I believe that the Wizards of the Coast's main problem that they've had since I've been doing this is they're so nepotistic in their hiring that instead of merit-based, hiring cousins and again, people that are in these little politically connected communities, they give jobs instead of people that are deserving. And they've been notorious for underpaying people and undervaluing people, and it's just led to the only people that are left in the company is just, you know, what I call little fart sniffers that get on board, and no one has really been able to, you know, speak up and keep them in check. And I think Mark Rosewater is the worst of the worst. He's the worst offender here because he's always been the fall guy, always like whenever anyone had any problem. I had actually Tilling Community College called out Mark Rosewater in the video, and it's very, and same thing with Magic Aids, they both call him out because he was always like, no, this isn't going to happen. He bald-faced lied or told people to chill out, or his 4-year-old girl liked My Little Pony, so why can't she enjoy the same hobby that he enjoys? Like, all of this stuff that Mark Rosewater, he's the main person that I blame for a lot of things, is because he should have been, like, if you take up that mantle and you become the spokesman for Wizards of the Coast, I think the buck stops with you of being able to you know, put out the fires properly. But instead of even trying to like put out fires or try to like empathize or at least sympathize with people's concerns, Mark Rosewater doubled down and started doing that whole bullying himself, saying people, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You're a terrible person you're just being exclusionary. And he quote all these like horrible statistics. I remember one year he talked about how 40% of all Magic the Gathering purchases were by women. And again, I'm not trying to gatekeep here. I know every nerd wants as many women possible in their nerd hobby because they have some sort of fantasy of meeting their, Foundation's trailer just put that out, some sort of fantasy of meeting their wife through Magic the Gathering. And I'm not going to knock on anyone's fantasy by wanting that appeal to it. But we live in reality here. We live in reality where there is a demographic that predominantly plays this, and you shouldn't be shunning that demographic, and you shouldn't be misrepresenting that this isn't how it is. And if you can still do things to try to entice other demographics and try to make a community more wholesome, that people want to engage in that. But the main reason that Magic the Gathering went from an obscure game to 30 million people is because the game and community were so good. It was so appealing that that's what brought people in. And Wizards has lost the plot. I think they are really thinking that their distractions have been the main reason why the success of Magic the Gathering has come to where it's at. And I guess it really wants to decide, you know, what kind of, and they really have. They've decided what kind of game they want to be. They want to appeal to the masses, but when you appeal to the masses, eventually you appeal to no one. And that's kind of my warning, is we've seen things in, like, I think even World of Warcraft went down this route when they tried to appeal to so many people. That's when their game died. And you can even see things like Fortnite. You can see a lot of these games in the past that have been able to actually completely take over the market, and they disappear because they become just so disinteresting because they don't have any core anymore. They don't have an identity at that point. When they've tried to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And again, that's kind of the whole thing with this video. My little heart-to-heart is, it's just like, I don't know. I've grown kind of tired of this nonsense of like these people now that are talking about like where were you, dude? Where were you guys 5 years ago when this stuff started infecting Magic? When, you know, not only that, but why you were the same people that were telling the rest of us to shut up, or telling us that we had no right to say this thing, or Magic should be for everyone. I mean, that's what I remember. I remember that this particular person, that was his rhetoric. Magic should be for everyone. Magic should be for everyone. Magic should be for everyone. Okay, well, here we are. And this is how you get your Spider-Mans. This is how you get your SpongeBobs. This is how you get your tone-deaf company that refuses to even listen or empathize or respect its core. And this is where we've come. And again, it's not going to change anything. People are still going to play Magic. Like, that was my problem. I used to say, I remember coming out of Spider-Man 1 on just livid. Was it Spider-Man or Avengers? I can't remember what movie that I came out of. And I remember turning to my friend, like, cinema is dead. And he's like, what's your problem, Kevin? This wasn't a good movie. I'm like, it was an okay movie. It was just the little, slap jokes, and the plot was so terrible. There was no character build. It's just booms, bangs, ahs in this movie. There's nothing special about that Avengers movie. And it got the most, I believe Avengers broke all the box records, right? And everyone just applauded it as like the best movie ever. And I'm like, did I just come out of the theater watching the same thing that everyone else watched? This video was just, it was a C. It was nothing special about it. It wasn't that entertaining. It wasn't, the writing was terrible. And if that's what the masses wanted, well, cinema's dead. And I think it's kind of the same problem that I'm going to have too, is Magic the Gathering's not dead. It's probably going to be bigger than ever. It's probably going to have record sales. It's probably going to have the frothing, FOMOing, and clickbaiting purchases that will actually lead to record sales, and then they'll, again, pat each other's selves on the back and sniff each other's farts and give each other high fives with they've made the best decisions ever. But it's kind of sad that even though it's going to be more popular than ever, even though that it's going to be quote-unquote stronger than ever, it lost its magic. It's no longer magic. It's no longer the thing we all fell in love with. And, sometimes things don't have to be mainstream. They don't have to be, and that's kind of the point I'm at right now. And again, it's just like, I wish that some people would take some self-reflection and realize the role that they've played, and maybe realize in the future that if you don't, like, not only A, stand up for things when these things start to creep in to the things you enjoy, but B, you start becoming part of the mob and part of the problem. Well, this is what happens. So take some self-reflection, realize the role that you all have played that didn't speak out during 2015, 16, 17 when all this stuff was creeping in. And this is how we get SpongeBob. Anyway, there's my rant for today. Thanks for watching.